Death Stranding is a decisive game. It seems you either think it's hot garbage or you think it's misunderstood. I feel it's a bit of both. The gameplay isn't too engaging and the story is just confusing. Regardless, I won't be going into those heavily here. There are other videos for that. I'll be talking about the one part of the gameplay that makes this game unique. In this video, I'll be talking about the social aspect and why it's so great, and why I think it's worth your time.
Over here!
The loop of Death Stranding is quite simple. Get an order, traverse the terrain to deliver it, and then get scored based on how well you did. This factors time, damage to cargo, how much you used the social features, how much you delivered, and what new things you did along your route. That being said, walking and running is slow, and carrying more weight will bog you down. If you want to keep cargo in your hands, you'll have to hold the trigger buttons the entire time. Not to mention that this drastically affects your balance, meaning you'll have to use the triggers to balance Sam properly, forcing you to stay focused as you walk for long stretches. The same goes for most terrains. Over rocks, going down or up hills will also hurt Sam's balance. Rivers are pinpoint accurate in their depth. Sam can't swim, so if you take one wrong step you'll lose stamina, and if you run out, you fall down the river. And some rivers will make that happen automatically. There's a heavy amount of vertical terrain. If you're not prepared for it, you have to make your way around it, which can take seconds or 10 minutes, or even more. And that's just the walking. Sam generally feels heavy to play, regardless of additional weight. You feel like you are controlling a human with weight, and a lot of it. The game continues to add stress by forcing you to manage yourself. Boots can wear down with use, meaning you'll have to replace them and keep spares for long trips. If the baby you carry with you at all times gets too stressed, you have to stop and soothe it. You need to stop and pee if you've drunk too much water or been out for too long. Drinking water or Monster Energy is a requirement for your stamina. That stamina bar can cap itself if you don't take care of it, and drains massively if you go uphill. The rain is literally poison, forcing you to run or hide from it unless you want your cargo damaged. BTs, these ghost people things, can appear randomly in the rain, forcing you to crouch or you will be attacked by them, which is often unavoidable, and they will damage your cargo. The human enemies are mules, people who want your cargo and can easily detect you if you walk near their scanners. Dealing with them isn't easy. Combat in the early stages is just an awkward stealth system. You can't kill anyone unless you want to transport their body to a massive pit. If you wish to have ammo to kill the BTs, you need to go back to home base, take a shower, or use the toilet so they can use your fluids to make grenades and ammo. You don't get a non-resource draining way to kill them until about 1/3 into the game. This can quickly boil the game down into watch Sam walk. You're controlling a slow and fragile character against massive landscapes and a world that is consistently working against you. The mules, BTs, and the rain are a constant threat. To this game's credit, it's accurate. You can't just run around the landscape like in other open world games, although some things make travel more accessible, like a walking skeleton that makes you faster or one that can offload some weight. You can even drive vehicles. However, even vehicles have a challenging time with terrain, and skeletons aren't that impactful and can still just run out of energy. It doesn't help that the game has no autosaving. To save, you'll need to stop and rest, which can be an easily forgettable mechanic. I've had the experience of spending over an hour on one expedition only to have lost all that work because I never needed to stop and rest, which is terrible by itself, but with some of the unfairness of this game, it can be just cruel. For me, it was always hard to play this game during the day. I had to play at night when my mind was less active. Having an active mind while playing such a slow game only contributed to that feeling of frustration. Like I wanted to do a lot, but the game wasn't going to let me do a lot. And it wasn't like the story ever alleviated that pain. In some games, you can endure slow or unenjoyable gameplay because the story is pulling the game enough. But Death Stranding's is just odd. Even at the halfway mark, there is still such little going on with the main plot that whenever it does crop up, it feels more like a distraction. The best moments came from helping characters within the game, like reuniting the artist and her husband. Seeing them reunite made me feel like my effort was worth it. That frustration that I endured was worth it, and it's my most memorable story moment from this game. But those moments are few and far between. All this together makes the gameplay loop rough, unmotivating, and tedious. It's a high bar, and I can't blame anyone for not wanting to stick to it. So, why play Death Stranding?
Hey!
Games are meant to craft a specific type of experience. Maybe that experience puts you in a particular character's shoes, like Batman, Spider-Man, or Geralt. All these games are designed with that idea in mind. How can we make the player live out the power fantasy of being this character? This could extend to non-pre-established characters as well. The game tries to make you feel like you're a hero who needs to save Hyrule, like an action movie hero in Call of Duty, or like an unstoppable demon slayer. Games are meant to give you a specific kind of feeling, not the kind you get from watching a character die, but the kind you get from an experience. Think Ghost Runner, where the game is trying to give you doses of adrenaline, or horror games, like Alien Isolation. It is trying to make you feel terror. Not to say these games can't have a story and world building and characters and a strong narrative, but their primary purpose is to make you feel a particular emotion. There are apparent outliers, but let's not make this more complicated than my poor communication skills are already doing. And games can give you a specific idea. An idea is when the game makes you think about the game itself in a certain way. The experience of playing said game gives you a lens to view the game itself. Dark Souls is so hard that I have to learn boss patterns, grind to level up, see what the bosses are weak to and what they resist, just to make it through, contributing to the idea that the game itself is challenging and only through repetition can you come out on top. This is separate from ideas in the more traditional sense. The Walking Dead's themes are about growing up and responsibility, but it doesn't merge those specific themes into the gameplay. It delivers its themes through its story, not with how you interact with the game. Games can blend both ideas and messages together. Metal Gear Solid 2 does as well, with the Solid Snake fake out and making you play a beat-for-beat recreation of its predecessor, commenting on your attachment to this game and the one before it. Obviously, this is just anecdotal and a thought I had. I believe games can and do use all these types and cycle between them. Just more or less, games often fall into one category. So Death Stranding itself has to fit a category, and I believe it's the idea one. That idea being that Death Stranding is so difficult and grueling that interacting with others is the only way to make it easier. Contributing to the idea that to make it through, you must interact with other players. So how do you interact with them?
Hello! Hey, you!
Death Stranding has many aspects that you may or may not enjoy. The most obvious are the gameplay and the story, but the experience I want to focus on in this video is the social aspect. Not only are the structures that you make left behind, but also the equipment. If you leave resources, people can pick those up for you or get those resources for themselves if you lose or leave them. People can also deliver any cargo with a destination for you if you happen to drop it. If not picked up, ladders and climbing spikes you use to climb terrain are also left behind for other people. If people have left vehicles in the world or in storage, those are yours to use. You can also donate and claim cargo and resources. You can let other players use side missions for you, entrusting the cargo that needs to be delivered to them. You are also able to follow other people's footsteps. Literally. Those are just the physical things. You can also leave signs, ranging from messages that play sounds, warnings, routes to take, and directions. Some signs also do a specific thing, like recharging your stamina, making your baby happy, or giving you a vehicle boost when you run through them. But the best social feature is the like system. People can like everything I've just previously stated, even the signs and footprints. You can give multiple likes in one instance, and based on how much someone helped me, often determined how long I would spend giving likes. This game's social experience is nothing like other video games. You can't yell at others, you can't troll someone's world, you can't do anything harmful. The game pushes positive social interactions only. You can only ever be kind to each other. And this social aspect is why I think you should play Death Stranding. Obviously you can play it for whatever reason you like. What you get from this game, and what you enter this game for, will be different for everyone. But for me, the social experience is what kept me hooked. So let's talk about what makes that so worthwhile.
Anybody hear me?
In Death Stranding, you're meant to connect with other people. You're supposed to help, share, and uplift others. And the difficulty of the game only bolsters that experience. Regardless of your opinions on if it's boring, the game is sluggish. It is painful, especially in the earlier portions. The world is pushing back at you, but it's made more accessible by people who have built bridges, left ladders, warned you of danger, encouraged you, left vehicles for you, and so on. You're constantly being helped and helping others, even if you don't mean to. You are uplifting each other with the like system, which creates a sense of camaraderie that just makes your efforts feel worthwhile. You've been on this journey together, and you can share that with each other. As a personal example, in the earlier areas of this game, there was this base I had to frequently get back to. It would have been easy, if not for an uncrossable river cutting off access. If I wanted to get around the river, I would have to walk an extra 5 minutes or so each time, making the journey that much more tiring. Thankfully, people had put ladders across the river's rocks so I could cross it directly. There was another time when I got caught in the middle of nowhere with no shelter and it started to rain. Luckily, someone had built a rain shelter for me to stop nearby, and another time my vehicle was nearly out of battery. Still, I managed to reach the highway players had built in time, charging it and allowing me to get to my destination. Sharing likes is always good because it lets the other person know you helped them and makes them feel good. I know this from experience, getting a small number of likes on things like footpaths, ladders and spikes, but I also built a bridge to cross a chasm with about 4,000 likes, which isn't crazy, but still, it's nice to know that people are using and appreciating my efforts. And I can only get that feeling through the like system. Without it, I'm not sure how I am helping others. The same motivation to help people wouldn't be there if I didn't know whether or not I was helping them. This social system is a small but powerful tool for connecting people. Because you can't dislike in this game, there's not any trolling you can do to the builds, all the signs are positive, you can't destroy any bridges, so the game is designed so that you can only ever help people. This game creates a sense of community. You can only build and support others. This is obviously how you can make real world connections. It doesn't really translate to adding people in this game, and I'm sure people have, but even though people have faceless names, it doesn't remove that feeling of helping an actual person as opposed to a video game checklist. I'm not sure why, but of course it's a positive experience. Helping people is universally a good feeling. This game doesn't always make it easy to engage with that system. Still, when you do, that sense of helping someone else is above anything this game gives you. This game exists like Dark Souls, but besides the fact that both abbreviate to DS, the signs are almost one-to-one. Only in the way they communicate are they different. Whether you're congratulating someone who defeated a boss, warning someone of traps, saying finger butthole, telling someone of a fake wall, or calling a turtle a dog, it builds a sense of a shared experience. Me telling you about the finger butthole is weird for an outsider, but typical for a Dark Souls player. Dark Souls gives this sense of collaboration. The messages, like I said, already do that, but there are more direct ways, like summoning people to help you defeat bosses or areas. You can do something similar in Death Stranding, but it's not as active. You do something now to have an effect for later. Dark Souls and Death Stranding are both challenging games. I hope I've made that clear enough. The connection you feel through messages or helping each other is unbeatable because you have conquered something together. Both games share a unique sense of shared pain. Depending on your interpretation, Death Stranding can be less intended, but the camaraderie is still there regardless, thanks to having to traverse such grueling gameplay together.
I'm Sam! My name's Sam too.
Death Stranding is a lonely game, both in its offline and online gameplay. You never see anyone walking around the world. When you interact with characters in the game, it's only ever through holograms or in cutscenes. So when you are in control, you are alone. But seeing other people's efforts, their signs, their buildings, and their history help combat that loneliness. You are pulled between feeling lonely at the moment and being forced to remember that you are not alone. Weirdly enough, one of the most harrowing things for me was calling out and getting no response, where I would usually get one. I'd always been alone, but it had been nice to know people were in the same area that I was, journeying with me, and to not get that was uncomfortable. Because when you do get that, it's a reminder that you are not alone. All these trails and remnants of past explorations, it makes you feel like they're there, that you're not alone. The game gives you both connection and loneliness at the same time. It presents it as something that needs to be endured.
by reminding you that people are always there. You just need to connect.
Don't mind me.
This game is not a universal thing to like. I do not think you are more or less artistically inclined to enjoying aspects of something. Whether you dislike or like this game's story, gameplay, social aspect, world, music, and everything else. It's like your preference for Pokemon. Sure, one might be more powerful than the other, and we can certainly talk about why some Pokemon are better than others and whether those Pokemon are truly bad. But ultimately, if you dislike a specific Pokemon, that's okay. And you're not any better or worse than the next person. Preferences and enjoying things don't have to conflict with the quality and value of art. The point, the purpose, it will ultimately be what you want it to be. What you prioritize will lead to different experiences. It is fair to try and get a particular experience out of a game that offers that experience. I just hope I can point out my experience and see if that is convincing anyone to seek out the same experience. My circumstances were different. I had been living alone during the loneliest time in recent history, and the somberness spoke to me. I didn't pick up the game because of how it is. I just stumbled into it with a lot of free time on my hands. But that's just me. It gave me a specific impression because of how I felt then. I can't say how playing this game for the first time would be today. I'm not trying to engage in this game's good/bad debate. If you like this game, fantastic. If you hate this game, it's also fantastic. I have to make this point clear because of how decisive and controversial this game actually is. Death Stranding has a robust social aspect. The rough gameplay gives the social part gravitas and becomes a fulfilling experience. The social lens is excellent if you want to apply it. The game is great for building connections. It's a game about loneliness and isolation, explored in a much better way than having the main character say it to you. And despite this game's flaws, I think it's an experience you should check out.
Now listen out, don't walk away. I've got nothing more to say. Can you see it in my dying face? You're acting like I care. Now is there anything that I can do? If there was, would we be singing? But you're a part of me and I'm a part of you. Yes, you're a part of me and I'm a part of you. You're a part of me and I'm a part of you. Yes, you're a part of me